Let me put you on game. Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a f*** what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger and start.
Welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. Today we got a very special guest, Mr. Devin Homer, who runs Homer Real Estate here in town. He's a very close friend, buddy of mine. So excited to kind of sit down and get to know his story and share that with you guys. So Devin, first off, appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, dude, it's an honor. I know we actually, little side fact. So Devin, we used to work together, and me and Devin did a little podcast like 2.5 years ago. Never did anything or went anywhere, but we did like 3 episodes. That never got posted.
The Real Estate Agent.
Yeah, the Real Estate Agent. It's still out there if you guys can find it. But anyway, so diving into it, Devin, where did life begin for you?
Yeah, so born and raised in Washington State. You know, I went to high school at Kennewick High, and really kind of started some careers there. One of my first, I guess, real jobs, I would say, is working for Gold's Gym there.
Okay.
Worked up to regional manager, so I'd kind of travel around to their different locations, help them open up new gyms, you know, anywhere from Washington, actually, all the way over here to Idaho.
Wow.
And
is this in high school? Or is this after high school?
After high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, high school, before high school, just farming jobs, so I don't count those. Anybody can drive a tractor, so I wouldn't say anybody.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Those are some other stories, but yeah, I grew up in Washington, did that after high school. You know, played football, had a scholarship to go to Eastern Washington University, blew my knee out, didn't want to pay like $30,000-$40,000 to go to school, so one of my buddies ended up talking me to come over here to Idaho, a little cheaper for schooling. My friends were here, so made my way over here and got married to an Idaho girl. And nobody told me that Idaho girls don't like to leave Idaho, so here we are. Now I'm here.
That's the typical trap.
Yeah,
Yep.
She got me, so yeah, it worked.
So you went to BYUI.
BYUI, yeah.
Okay.
And I was working on my business administration degree.
Okay.
Business management. Emphasis on entrepreneurship. And at that time when I was going to school, I started working for a company called Fat Cats in Rexburg. It's a family fun center.
Okay.
I always have to tell people that because some people think they assume stuff, maybe strip clubs. I'm like, it's not. Okay.
Worked at a place called Fat Cats.
It's a family fun center. It's the exact opposite. I don't know where the name came from, but that's what they decided. So yeah, I mean, kind of my journey before is I worked for a lot of companies and just kind of worked my way up. So, you know, with the gym, I started actually as a lifeguard.
Oh, really?
And worked up into customer service, and then eventually did the regional manager job. When I first came to BYU, Idaho, I started actually working at Applebee's as a cook. They were the only place hiring.
Yeah.
Eventually worked up, became an assistant manager there. It's the food industry, and so nobody likes it. So I got out of that, got into Fat Cats, and same thing, just thought it was a job. I was going to school, worked up, ended up becoming the general manager, ran that for about 6 years.
While you were still going to school,
Yeah,
right?
going to school. Yep.
Okay. Did you finish school?
I did not.
Okay.
I got about 3 years into it and decided that I was kind of learning more from working in a business or running a business than I was from going to school. And I was getting paid for that versus having to pay for school. So it just kind of got to the point where, yeah, maybe a degree would have been nice, but I think the growth was happening more outside of school, and I decided to kind of step away and focus more on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was your journey working your way up through Fat Cats to be the general manager there? Fat Cats is, I mean, they're a pretty big company, right? Like multiple locations throughout different states. When did you become a general manager? How long did that take you? And what was kind of your experience going through that corporate ladder?
Yeah. So, you know, I started at Fat Cats just as a front desk worker, like I said, just something I was in college. And then within a few weeks, I think from my experience or how I handled guests or whatever, they ended up moving me up to a shift manager, which was nice, a little bit more pay. It's Rexburg, so it wasn't great, but it was better than it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, did that for a while. Opportunities came up where the general manager left and one of the other managers moved up. I became the assistant manager, did that for a few years, and then got to the point where they moved me up to general manager, also made me like a training manager. So when they opened all the new facilities, they're in Colorado, Utah, Arizona. So when they were opening up the new locations, they'd send me out and have me train.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. You know, with any job, there's good and bad about it. Any, you know, people-facing job, there's going to be stuff you deal with.
Yeah.
I think a big thing with Fat Cats is there's a lot of things that are out of your control. You know, you have movie projectors, you have bowling lanes, you have arcade games. Everything's breaking down. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And so, and the amount of employees was crazy. I mean, we had, I think at one point, 85 employees to run. And so, you're basically running 3 different businesses. You're running a bowling alley, you're running an arcade, you're running a movie theater. At that time we had mini golf and, virtual reality games, pool table. I mean, we had so many different moving parts that, it really taught me kind of how to delegate, how to kind of give tasks, and people would maybe do them a little different than you would do them, but they still did them well, and being okay with that. That kind of stuff is a lot of what I learned from that job.
Gotcha.
It was good. It was good.
Good experience.
Yeah. The hard part with each of those jobs that I found is that I would start and I would work my way up the ladder until I got to a point where I couldn't work my way up the ladder anymore.
Yeah.
And because of that, the pay became stagnant too. And I'm very much a person that likes to continually grow and see rewards from that growth. And so each of those jobs, I kind of got to that point where I couldn't grow anymore, and I didn't see any sort of growth from there. And then that's when I basically decided to leave, go somewhere else, kind of work my way up there.
Got it.
So that was the hard part about those jobs.
So you were, how long were you the general manager there?
General manager was 4.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. So what, then where'd you go from leaving Fat Cats?
Leaving Fat Cats, I jumped into real estate.
Okay. So that's where you came into the real estate. What triggered that? Why real estate?
So it came down to basically, a lot of my pay was based off of bonuses. So the base pay wasn't very good. It was about, 35, 40,000 is kind of what it was.
Okay.
But with bonuses added onto that, at the end of the year, we're looking closer to 70, 75. So decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of those were based off of variable numbers. So, you'd say, okay, this is your goal for this year. You hit that, you get bonus. Next year, they up that by, 50,000.
Yeah.
Next year, 50,000. Rexburg's only so big. So, I got to a point where I saw that number was not going to keep going up. It was going to start going down because of the new goals that they set and things like that, which is fine. You want to stretch, but at the same time, I didn't want such a big portion of my pay controlled by what somebody else thought it should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You talk about like moving the goalposts, but eventually it's like, you're like, okay, there's only so much capacity with this one store or this one building. Because
at that point, we were outperforming some of the stores in Utah, some of the stores in Arizona, which have 10 times the population that we did.
Yeah.
So it's like, how far can I go with this? And that uncertainty kind of led me to, well, if I'm going to do something that's maybe a little uncertain, I'd want to do something where I have the control over that versus somebody else telling me what we need to hit, or you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say, if you were going to go the route of that uncertainty led me to get into real estate, I'm like, that's a bad move. But did that uncertainty force you to just say, if I'm going to deal with that
uncertainty that I have control over?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I work harder, I'm going to make more money. If I don't want to work as hard, I make less money. But it was getting to a situation there where I would work super hard and not get the money. And I didn't really like that idea. So
for sure. So what, so you decide to take classes. Do you jump full into real estate, or how's that journey for you?
Yeah, both feet in.
Okay.
Don't recommend, but my last day working for Fat Cats was January 31st. I started February 1st doing real estate. Started taking some of my classes. I was working for another.
I think it's important to hit on the year. What year was that? January 1st?
2020.
Okay. We all know what happened in 2020.
January 31st, 2020, I quit my salary job. My wife was due to have our first baby in 2 months. A month and a half later.
Yeah.
So she's scared. I'm scared, but I felt it was a good choice. And I jumped in, started working with another local agent here in town, kind of as an ISA, doing some phone calls, stuff like that, while I was taking my classes.
Okay.
I was halfway through my first class, so weekend.
Okay.
COVID hits. Everything shuts down. Governor Little does his little announcement, and they cancel our class right there. And, real estate, my boss there was kind of unsure how things were going to go. So he kind of furloughed everybody. So, I was unhappy about it, but okay with it because I think it was like February 25th or 28th or something, right around the end of the month when they actually announced the COVID, shut it down, right?
Yeah.
And my baby boy was born March 9th.
Oh, man.
So, I was upset that oh my gosh, I'm not going to make money. What are we going to do? But then at the same time, I was able to be home and kind of help with the baby and getting into the groove of things. So it was a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So came back, kind of started doing some real estate stuff. I was trying to figure out anything I could do because at this point, we have a certain amount of money in our bank account. I'm calculating out, okay, how long can we stretch this until I need to get a sale or I need to do something?
Yeah.
All the real estate schools up here were still closed. Finally, one of them opened. And so there's basically two main real estate courses in Idaho Falls. One does day classes, one does night classes. So what I ended up doing is I took them both at the same time. So I had my week left of day classes and 2 weeks of night classes. And so I would go to the first class from like 8 a.m. until 4 or 5, whenever they let out for the day. Start my second class at 6 at night and go until 10 when they ended. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's what I had to do. And then after that, all of the testing centers, you have to take your real estate test with Pearson View. The closest one here is Pocatello, and they have some in Boise and Utah. All of those were closed. None were closed. So I'm searching state by state, trying to find one that's open. Finally find that Las Vegas is open. So I don't know if any of you have taken like a major test that has to do with like your job. Like you cannot work if you don't pass this test. Then add the pressure of having a newborn baby in your car, driving, 10 hours to Vegas and sitting down and trying to take this test, knowing that if you fail, you're pretty much screwed. Oh my gosh. I've never sweat so much in my life.
Talk about.
Plus it's like 115 degrees in Vegas on top of it all.
Devin doesn't like hot weather.
No, and I don't. So all that on top of each other. Plus like, you go to Vegas, you're like, okay, we can do this, go have some fun. No, Vegas is closed.
Yeah.
The strip's empty. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I think Vegas was trying to do about 20 years of road maintenance in like 6 months because that's the only time that road's ever been clear ever.
Yeah.
So long story short, pass the test. We're good. Come home, get started doing real estate.
That's crazy. And that story is incredible. The fact that you jumped in both feet getting into real estate, this, a world pandemic hits, you get laid off from like the job that you had while you're hoping you could get your license.
Right.
And, then to go and take 2 classes at the same time, like that's the first time I've heard of somebody doing that, doing a day class right into a night class. You're in real estate class from 8 to 10 o'clock to get it done. And then you drive, a lot of people would have just been like, I give up. It's just not the right time. I'm just going to go get a job. But you're like, no, I'm going to take both classes. I'm going to figure it out. And then you get hit with, there's no testing centers open, so you can't even take a test. A lot of people would at that point would have just been like, I'm just not going to get licensed, I guess.
Yeah. And I forgot that after you take the test, you have to do your fingerprints, but the fingerprints were closed because they don't want to touch your hand. They do the digital ones,
Yeah. And
so I called IREC, the Idaho Real Estate Commission office, and said, okay, what are my options? And they said, well, you can, do a manual fingerprint. We can mail you a, paper copy. You can do it, right? And I said, okay, well, there's this clock in the back of my head saying I only have so much time before I need to make some money. I'm like, how long, that going to take? Well, we usually mail it. It takes like a week. I'm like, no. So I get in my car, I drive to Boise to grab this stupid fingerprint form, come back, do it. And when they were on the phone, they make it sound like, oh, this is a special fingerprint form. Like we're the only ones. So I go to the police station to get it done. They have the same freaking form sitting in a little folder right next to the counter. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But whatever, we got it done. So
yeah.
It's just one of those things that we've kind of talked about in the past where if somebody asked me if I would do it all over like that again, I would say yes. And the reason being is because a lot of people will get in these industries or try to be an entrepreneur or things like that. And they put one foot in. Problem with having one foot in is you got one foot out. And how easy is it to just take that step back if things don't work out? Versus if you jump in, your back's against the wall, you have no choice. Like if you have a plan B, you're going to take the plan B 100% of the time. But if you only have one plan, you're going to do everything in your power to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, which is why I wouldn't change how it happened.
Yeah.
Not that it was easy, not that I loved it, but
you pushed through it.
Yeah.
And it probably got you, it's probably a big factor of getting you to where you're at today.
Yeah. It just gets you in the habit of not giving up.
Yeah.
Things are going to get hard. You just got to push through. You got to figure out a way.
Yeah.
That's what separates the people that aren't successful and the ones that are successful.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't have a plan B. You had a newborn baby at home.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice.
You needed to figure it out.
Yeah.
So you finally, you go through this whole hassle, you get licensed. What's next for you? Where does things go?
Yeah. So, I mean, with the first guy I started with, there was some things that happened there that I wasn't like super thrilled about. So it's okay. It's not for, everybody. So
Yeah.
actually talked to a few people in the industry that my wife knew and I knew, and a couple people had pointed me your way. And so, yeah, we called, set up that lunch, went down, asked you some questions, got down to the nitty gritties, and then decided to come on with Top Notch.
So for those that are listening that don't know, Devin was the first agent we brought onto the team. He's actually kind of the reason we started the team. He came to us. He came to us about a brokerage, and we were talking about the brokerage. And then he's like, "What about you guys?" I'm like, yeah, what about us? He's like, "What about your team?" I was like, "Well, I didn't really have a team at the time. I had a team name, but I didn't really have a team." So it was really cool. But I think what inspired that though was when you told me. It's because you had gone to class with Bree, so you kind of knew Bree, or knew Bree mentioned home smarting.
Yeah.
And so when Bree explained your story, she's like, "Oh yeah, this guy wants to meet with us. He took day and night classes, and then he went to Vegas to take his test, and then he drove to Boise to drop off his application." I'm like, okay, this guy's a go-getter. It's hard to find people that are that motivated, and you took fate into your own hands. You're like, I'm not just going to leave it up to fate. I'm going to just go and do the things I need to do. So I thought that was super impactful. That's hard to come by. And that's why we're like, we need to figure out how we can help this guy get going in real estate.
And that's why, and that's because something good you mentioned. I've had a lot of people that I've kind of worked with that times get tough and they say, well, it's just not meant to be.
Yep.
It's like, no, that's the most like generic excuse you can use for someone not to argue with you, but it's not going to happen because you don't want it to happen bad enough. Like if you really wanted it to happen, you would find a way to make it happen. And so when people say, oh, it's not meant to be, it's like, well, I mean, that's one way of saying you gave up, or that's one way of saying like it's too hard and you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's actually good. Next time somebody tells me that, I'm like, oh, what you're trying to say is you just want to give up.
But it's true. Like,
yeah,
obviously in our society, we don't want to hurt people's feelings or things like that. There's a lot of that. But at the end of the day, like there's people that are going out and doing the same thing that you want to do and they're doing it.
Yep.
So what's the difference between you and them? It's not like they have some secret sauce. It's not like they're just working and they're doing it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that mentality. So we get connected. We kind of start doing the team where I guess it's kind of a mixture of our stories there, but like you're on the team for a little over a year, right?
It was like, a year and a half.
Year and a half. You start doing fairly well. Like how was that first year and a half in real estate for you?
It was mind blowing. I think there was, I think the biggest thing I would say that happened in that year and a half is just a change of mindset. All growing up, you have this mindset of like, okay, these people go to school and they do this, but that'll never be me. Or, holy crap, that guy makes $100,000 a year. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And then you start to see like, wow, I mean, that's really not too far off. Like I could do that. I could do these things and maybe get to 100,000.
Yeah.
And then you get to that point and it's just a, I don't know a better way to say it, but it's kind of like a mind F. It just messes with your head. You're like, well, this is kind of how I grew up in this box my whole life.
Yeah.
You go to school, you do this, you can make this amount of money. You're going to get in this much debt and then go work for somebody the rest of your life or whatever. And you can't do anything without a college degree, like that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that box opens, you're like, where did those thoughts come from? Or I guess, why did I get stuck in that box? Because you realize the unlimited potential that there is.
Yeah.
And if you surround yourself with the right people, I think that's another thing that probably changed in that year and a half to 2 years is the people I surrounded myself with is totally different now than it was, 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Explain, where do you think, because I agree. I mean, I did see that mindset shift in you. Where do you think that originated from? Like the principles with money or?
I don't know. I don't know if it was just like from my parents or like people that I surrounded myself with or from school, just teaching you that, I feel like America has kind of groomed people to be in a box. They've said that you need to go to college, you need to have a degree or you're not going to make any money. They said that, you need to do this or need to do that, or you can't do this or you can't do that. And then as soon as you do that, you're like, wait a second, But I guess I'm listening to the same people that told me that I needed to learn how to do math problems because I'm not going to carry a calculator in my pocket for the rest of my life. And look at us now. We all got iPhones. We can do calculations whenever we want. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I'm not saying it was right the way I was thinking.
Yeah.
But once you break free from that, there's just no going back.
I think it's so powerful because I say it a lot. It's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So you can't blame yourself for thinking a certain way if you didn't know any other way. And so it's like, you don't know how to solve that math problem unless you're taught how to solve that math problem.
Right.
And so that's why I'm always so focused on getting into rooms where people are thinking bigger and doing better things, because they're doing bigger things because they obviously know something that maybe I don't know, or maybe they have a mentality shift, or that they could teach me that's going to cause me to think bigger. And you think of like people in lower income neighborhoods or in bigger cities, that it's not that they don't know, not that they don't want to be successful, but they're just not in the right, nobody's teaching them. They're in the system, they're in the school system. They're getting taught that really the only way to, make it is to go to school, go to college, do this. And if school's not their thing, they don't know any other way. You're a product of your environment. And so that's like been one of my biggest fascinations is how do you actually get, I want everybody to be successful. It's like, how do you get everybody into the right environment?
And I think a better way of saying, the whole school thing and putting you in a box is that they kind of condition people not to be dreamers.
Yeah.
They condition people that, well, you can think about that stuff, just don't take it too serious because it's not possible. So when you bring people on trying to change that mindset to like, why couldn't you make $150,000? Why couldn't you make $200,000?
Yeah.
Like, well, why not? There's people doing it. So why couldn't that be you? And it's like, they almost have this mentality of like, those people are celebrities or they're like too good. There's something different about them, but there's not. They put their pants on the same way you do. They went to school just like you did, but they chose to create something for themselves versus, working hard and making somebody else's dream come true.
Yeah. I had Garrett on the podcast a while back, and he made a comment because he was going to school. His thing was like, he's going to be a doctor, going to the medical field. And he was talking to his dad that's an engineer at the INL, and Garrett was like doing the summer sales, and he told him, Garrett's like, I think he was breaking it down of what he could make going out this next summer. And he was like, he asked his dad what he thought, and his dad's like, son, if you think you can really make that money, I've worked my whole life to get to a point where I can make that money.
Yeah.
And he's like going into his second year of summer sales.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I wrote it down. Like, I really think this is legit. I could do this. And he's like, well, go do it. Like, if you think you do it. And so I think that's such a lot of some parents are like, that's all, it's probably a scam, or it doesn't work, or, maybe that there's something special about that person. But for them to realize like, hey, I've worked my whole life. I went to school and I did this to get to a 6-figure job. If you really think you can go do that, like, go pursue that. But I think there's so many different ways nowadays to make money that people just got to decide like what it is they want to do and what they want to pursue. I have a strong belief that if you're the best, or you can do anything at a high level, you can make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
But you just got to be willing to put in the time to become an expert at whatever that is.
Take the time to do it, stick with it, take the risk. And that's what I think a lot of people are scared of too, is the risk. They get so caught up in like a salary job because it's consistent. They get a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But like, that's something I talk to my agents all the time, is like, there's two different mindsets you can have with being an entrepreneur or running your own business.
Yeah.
You can look at it from the side of, man, I'm not going to have consistent pay. I don't know if I'm going to get paid this month, yada, yada, yada. You can make all these excuses and say that, right? Or you can view it from the side of, I can literally make an unlimited amount of money. I can make as much money as I want to. I just have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you're gonna think this way, you're gonna be scared all the time. You're gonna have a scarcity mindset. You're gonna not spend money on things you probably should be spending money on, and it's gonna halt your business growth. Versus if you're looking at it this way, you're a go-getter. You go find the business. You don't sit there and wait for it. How many agents sit there and wait for the phone to ring? Who's gonna call you? Where are they gonna find where are they gonna call you from?
Yeah.
They're not gonna pull out the phone book and call you, right? Because there's 3 other agents that are calling them, and it's more convenient for them to go with one of them.
Yep.
So I think it's all about a mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Not looking at it as like, I don't know what I'm going to make, but like, I have the potential to make however much I want to make this month.
Right.
Because when you're at a 9-to-5 job, it's like, yeah, what you're going to make, but the other side of that is, what you're going to make. Like, it's not like you're going to get a $10,000 bonus that
And
month.
it's not like you can just work harder and get paid more. Like,
No.
you can work 10 times harder and get paid the same exact amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're big proponents of, self-employed jobs and really even sales jobs. I think anything where you can not have a ceiling, it's scary, but it's like, that's where you have the most potential. So going through that year and a half, kind of doing that mindset shift. One thing I wanted to point out, like when we first met, you guys were big into the Dave Ramsey program. You still big into the Dave Ramsey program?
No. I mean, okay, look.
There's some principles that I do.
Yes, there's some principles that work. And guess what? Like, some people need that.
Absolutely.
Because some people can't control their spending.
Yeah.
Because he's a big proponent of don't spend money you don't have.
Yeah.
He's a big proponent of, like, paying off your debts, having savings, right? Which everybody should do.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. There's some things I don't agree with, like credit cards, because I love points, but you have to be responsible. Like, you have to pay that credit card off every month.
Yeah.
His fear is that people will put things on the credit card that they don't have money for, get to the end of the month and not be able to pay it off. And then guess you got a 20-something% interest payment. Like, that's what he's trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So I get for some people, they need that.
Yeah.
And that discipline, but also if you can control your spending and be smart about it, then there's a lot of opportunities to leverage with debt and things like that.
Yeah.
I think he's a little scared of that because of what happened to him in the past.
Yeah.
But if you're smart about it, I mean, that's a way to grow your wealth exponentially versus if you waited to have, like, a lot of people buying houses lately, right?
Yeah.
They try to wait till they have 20% because that's what he says. And then he says, like, just do a 15-year mortgage, things like that.
Yeah.
Which is, like, great if you can do that, but you have the potential to make a lot more money if you're able to get in the house sooner, let the home appreciate, do that kind of stuff, which we won't get into too much detail about, but it doesn't always pay to wait. And that's kind of where I don't agree with him so much on stuff.
Yeah.
It's opened my eyes. Like, some stuff is good, but
Yeah. I think some of the core principles are good. But I think getting too caught up in everything that he preaches can be dangerous because it's going to halt your growth. Because nobody that's super successful that has hit those probably levels of success that most people want to hit, where you have the freedom and stuff. It's very hard to do it if you're not leveraging debt and investing into certain things.
So to go on that, I mean, leveraging debt is good, right? The problem is, and what he probably deals with primarily is people that take out debt and go buy a brand new car. They take out debt and they go buy a bunch of clothes. They take out debt and they go travel. That's not what you want to do. If you're taking out debt, you want to take out debt so that you can purchase an asset that's going to make you money to not only pay those debt payments, but cash flow even more than that.
Correct.
So, I've talked to, Chandler and some of those guys, and a lot of their big things is, oh, we want to buy a boat or we want to do this. Well, before they do that, they purchase an asset that pays for that. So it's not like they're taking away some of their income that they have.
Yeah.
They're purchasing an asset that's going to pay for that boat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that you want to do it. So many people I feel like in their 20s are so concerned about looking like they have money or looking the part. But it's like, if you can go 5-10 years living like you don't have a lot of money, then the rest of your life, you can
actually have money.
You do whatever you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to buy that, expensive shirt right now. You don't need to buy that purse. You don't need to buy that car. Like, get some assets and have those assets pay for everything for you. Yeah. And you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of people.
Yeah. I love that. That's where your mind is now. Instead of paying off.
A little different. So what he's referring to is before I was all about paying things off. So my trailer was paid off, my truck was paid off, car was paid off, everything was paid off except for the house.
And you were working to pay that off.
Right. So all of our extra income was going to pay that off versus, this might be kind of high level stuff, but what's the point of paying your house off fast when the interest rate is 3, 4, 5%? You're not going to be able to borrow money anywhere for that cheap. So why would you pay that off? Use that money for other things. Because say if I was going to buy, some sort of thing with the business, I need to get a business loan, like 10%.
Yeah.
So why would I take my money to pay 10% interest? Because I've been using it to pay off the house. So I need to take that loan with 10% interest versus just using the money that I would have paid more on for the house at 5%. I mean, it's just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about that because he doesn't really talk about that stuff.
Yeah. And over that long of a term too. It's like, when are you going to get it? You can't really get a business loan at a 30-year term, that's amortized over that long. So it's just understanding the certain things. And it gets into high level, wealth building. You look at any kind of millionaire, billionaire, they leverage debt even against their, like, everything that they have is typically in assets, whether it's stocks, or real estate, and then they just leverage. They get lines of credit against their assets, and that helps them to not pay income tax too. So it's
Now we're getting high level.
Yeah. But anyway, so you spent a year and a half with the team. We absolutely loved having you on there. You guys were crushing it. Where'd you go from there?
So from there, it was kind of a random story. So, I did real estate. We were having some success with it.
What'd you guys do last year? Basically like your first year in real estate, full year.
First full year, I think we were at like 160,000.
Cool. Just massive for your first full
Yeah,
year.
it was like mind blowing. Like I said, changing mindset. It's like, whoa, we just blew past 100,000 like that.
Yeah.
What else is the potential here? So
Yeah.
it was a good year.
And you had a unique situation with family moving into town.
Yeah, unique situation. So long story short, we got into real estate, saw some success. My brother was living at Washington at the time, and in the past, the family had talked about doing something in real estate, whether that was kind of, doing some home flipping or something like that. So my brother wasn't like the happiest with his job, and I think it was around like 4th of July or something, and they're able to do their classes there online.
Yeah.
And they had some sale on the class. It was like half off. So he's like, whatever, bought it, took the class, and started working for one of the biggest brokerages in Southern Washington.
Okay.
As an inside sales agent, making phone calls, stuff like that. So he had gotten into it. He was licensed as a realtor. And then my dad at the time, my mom and dad were living in Tennessee. And he's like, what the heck? Got his license. He's done sales his whole life. And he was doing real estate in Tennessee for 8 or 9 months, seeing some success down there.
Yeah.
And so talks just kind of happened, and there was just the opportunity where they could all move here and we could kind of work together and start our own thing and help build it up.
That's cool.
Building a team, it's a ton of work. So the idea of having multiple people to kind of help share that responsibility was enticing. And so we decided to take the leap.
And start your own team. What's been the journey from going as like an agent on a team to running your own team?
Depends on the day. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. I'll tell you that right now. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. It's hard because, like you were saying earlier, it takes you out of production a little bit. Yeah. So you have a decrease in pay, increase in expenses, at least for the first little while.
Yeah.
As you build that up. And there's a lot to it, Anybody that thinks, I'm going to start a team, maybe talk to one of us first before you decide. We can try to talk you out of it. But if you still decide to do it, that's on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good. A lot of opportunities, a lot of kind of pride in building up our own thing.
Yeah.
And it's been fun that we've been able to stay at the same brokerage, and so we've been able to still work together and kind of collaborate a little bit. So,
yeah. What's been your biggest struggle? Like what did you not know that you now going into it?
I think just putting all the systems and stuff into place is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It streamlines it once you're done, but getting it to the point where you want it takes a long time. First draft, second draft, third draft. I mean, there's always things that are evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And I think with starting a team and having agents come honor me, it was hard for me training some of these agents sometimes because I would want it more than they would want it. And that's really hard for me. I don't like to give up on people. I don't like to feel like I didn't give my all to someone when they kind of trusted me and came into an industry they're unfamiliar with and went to train them. But I think just realizing that sometimes people say they want it and they don't, and being okay with parting ways if that's the way. I mean, it's tough, but that was probably one of the harder things for me.
Yeah. That's very, obviously very similar in that aspect where I don't like to let people down. I see the best in everybody. I see that they could be successful, but sometimes like people don't see that they can be successful. And as much as you pour into them, like you can't, unless you're willing to carry them up to the top, which we've talked about before too. It's, you gotta find out where's that line of you're enabling them to be lazy versus like you're trying to help them get to the top, and at the end of the day, you're not running a charity,
Exactly.
It is a business. And so you've got to figure out how to motivate them and get them to also want to do the work to progress themselves,
Right. business isn't personal, right? Business is one of those things where it's black or white. Like the decisions you're making are either making you money or they're not. And obviously we're going to do everything we can to provide value for those agents, have value propositions. But at the end of the day, if I'm providing all this value or you're providing all this value and there's no value in return, then it's not a good business investment. That's black or white. And it's not personal. It's not like I don't like you or like having you around, but at the end of the day, it's a business, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. So what's been the biggest lesson you've learned running a team?
Biggest lessons I've learned is that besides, just dealing with agents and kind of what they want and stuff, I think just the time it takes.
Yeah.
I think just between running the business and hiring on admin staff and, putting together the systems, putting together the websites, doing all the branding and advertising. I mean, there's just so many pieces to the pie that it's like you get one thing figured out and then you turn around, there's like 10 more things you got to figure out. So just constantly trying to manage my time between production and running and building the team, I think I'm still learning. It's not been learned yet. I'm still learning.
It's a juggling act because you're trying to build and run a company, but you're also trying to make money to build and run a company.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting, it's not like most companies where you're running solo while you're trying to do everything else on top of that.
Right. And
so it's a very, I'm not, by no means am I perfect at it or have it figured out, but it's definitely a hard balancing act to figure out where that give and take is. But I think you guys have done a really good job so far. You've been doing it for, how long have you, it's been 2 years?
Yeah, just under 2 years.
2 years, which is super impressive. You guys have really hit the ground running and taken it to some pretty cool heights. It's been fun to watch you guys. What's been like, would you do it differently? Would you do anything differently?
Would I do my journey differently?
Yeah. From the last 2 years, anything that you would have done differently?
I think I want to say, yes, I would have done a little differently now that I'm where I'm at.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when you're there, like we said before, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And so I probably would have done it the same way because the only way I learned those things was by going through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. There's some things I could have told myself to like not waste money on here or do this a little sooner. But at the end of the day, like there's no secret sauce. You just kind of have to figure it out and figure out what works for you, figure out what works for your team. Even between me and you, like some of our lead sources, some of our operations, stuff like that are different.
Yep.
And they both work.
Yeah.
The difference is like I said, there's no secret sauce. There's so many ways to do things. It's just you stick to it and that's your way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd do anything differently. But yeah.
Which brings up another good point. Like we talk a lot about, what are you doing? What are you doing that works? And we're very transparent with each other, which I think is cool. Obviously it's, we're at the same brokerage and we support each other. But even when I've been at previous brokerages, like the team leaders don't usually like talk and share insights of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Agents don't collaborate and share what they're doing. So I think what we got here is pretty cool. It's fun to watch, and I get a lot of joy knowing like if there's things that I can help you with and help you guys succeed. I take pride in that. Like, I called you the other day, like, dude, how many listings you got? I saw these signs around town. But I love that too.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's awesome because I think the bigger you guys grow, I think it's cool. It's cool to watch.
Well, I think, like I said, the what I told you the other day is there's no secret sauce. Mm-hmm. And what like some of my coaches have said is what's, you ask what's working right now. It's working.
Yeah.
Like working hard is working right now. And it doesn't matter. I talk to my agents, some of my agents, the way they get their leads is Facebook and open houses. There's some agents that I have that get most of their leads from talking to their sphere and door knocking. There's people who are all about like Nick, content creation and doing that whole set. There's so many ways to do it.
Yeah.
But you just gotta do it. And I know that's easier said than done because sometimes you don't know where to get started or whatever. But I guarantee if you just do something, if you just go hand out 10 business cards a day, if you do consistently a podcast, if you go out and talk to people, like when I first started on Top Notch, I wasn't exactly sure how to get leads.
Yeah.
So I drove Uber. Do you remember this? I drove Uber and would hand out business cards to people. and ended up getting like 3 sales from that.
Yeah. I remember and I've actually used that as an example for agents. Cause you get agents all the time. They're like, I don't know what else to do. It's like, there's always something you could be doing. I remember that when we were running that, back when you were on the team, and that was like the challenge. I said, hey, I want you guys to hand out 10 business cards. Just hands out 10 business cards a day. And Devin's head automatically went to like, okay, well, I'm really not from here, so I don't know a lot of people. Like, how am I going to hand out 10 business cards? Might as well drive for Uber, make some money. Yeah. And if I do 10 drives, I can hand out 10 business cards every single day. And that actually led to you getting like a buy, a sell, and another buy or something. So, which led to like, I don't know, let's say $20,000 or so in commissions. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. From driving Uber.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head too. That's what the secret sauce is. I'll say, this is the secret sauce. You guys ready? Conversations.
Yeah.
How do you have conversations? There's a million ways.
So many.
Content creation. You're having conversations. Yeah. There might be, you're talking to a wall, but people feel like you're talking to them, right?
Yeah.
Handing out business cards. You're having conversations with people. Driving Uber. You're having conversations.
Yep.
Door knocking, having conversations. So how do you want to have your conversations? And that's what you got to decide.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, as long as you're having 20 conversations, 10, 15 conversations, whatever your goal is for the day, if you're doing that, you will get sales.
Yeah.
But how do you want to do that? Because sitting at your desk waiting for the phone to ring is not having any conversations.
Yeah. You got to build momentum some way.
Yeah.
So on that, because like that's something I preach to my agents all the time. And I'm very lenient on like, pick the lead source that you want to do, whether that's content creation, whether that's doing open houses, whether you want to make cold calls, whatever is going to lead to conversations, but you need to be having conversations because that's what leads to all the other activities that are going to lead to closings. So they tell you they want to do open houses, or they tell you they want to do content. And this is their idea. This is what they want to do, but then they still don't do it.
So what's their excuse when they say they don't want to do it?
They just,
I'll do it next week. Or?
Yeah. I didn't have time this week. Well, what activities were you doing this week? I just was busy, but they don't have anything on their activity, their activity board. What's kind of your, that's where I kind of like bang my head against the wall and it's like, I'm too nice. Like, I just kind of like, okay, well, like, let's make sure we get it done this week. Let's time block for that. Let's make it a priority. What's your thought process around that, or how do you lead that?
I mean, I'm going to start off this answer by saying you can't want them more than them.
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
Can't. You may want it more than them, but you just can't do that. It's not going to work.
Yep.
Because you cannot make them do these actions. But I'll go over 2 things. I mean, I think one of the biggest things with that is that Mondays we'll have accountability meetings one-on-one. I'll do with my agents, and I'll say, they gave me 3 actions that they wanted to do, and they come in and I say, okay, what prevented you from doing these 3 actions, or what can I do more to help you do these 3 actions? Because I didn't give these to you. This is what you told me to hold you accountable for. So now we're holding you accountable. Yeah. Were you too busy? Was it, and I feel like them kind of getting called out works a little bit, but that also goes back to, do I want more than them? Like, I shouldn't have to do that. Right.
Yep.
So we have these deep conversations about how bad do you want it? What's your why? That kind of stuff. We go back to that. If they're still not doing it with their why's not strong enough. They need a why. But then another thing, I've had a lot of agents kind of do I had something come up, I'll do the next one. Or, we have this and this with family, so I'll make my calls next week. Yep. And then I go back to one of my favorite quotes, which is that I'll do it tomorrow. That the saying, I'll do it tomorrow, is the killer of dreams. Yeah. Because it's never going to happen.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
People say they want to go to the gym. I'm going to start on Monday. Why start on Monday? Start right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that mentality of like, I'm just going to push it off because it's inconvenient or it's hard. So I don't want to do it this week. Next week sounds better.
Yep.
Guess what? You get to next week. I'm going to do it next week because it doesn't really sound fun right now. So I'm gonna or they kind of classifying activities. We do like the ABC activities, right?
Okay.
So A activities is what your focus should be on first. That's actually doing listing appointments.
Yep.
That's actually going to closings. That's that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's actually getting money. If you don't have any of that going on, you need to be focusing on B activities. B activities are, actually calling, prospecting, getting leads, generating more business.
Yeah. Building
and then
a pipeline.
and then there's C activities, which you should never do. And that's your busy work, right? You should have an assistant for that. Or, if you're doing that stuff, it needs to be after business hours, like when everything else is taken care of. Because at the end of the day, that stuff's great. It helps, run the business, but it's not making you any money.
What are some examples of C activities?
C activities, designing a postcard. You can pay someone like $5 on Fiverr to design a postcard, or you can have an assistant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to be spending your time doing that.
Yeah.
Or, spending copious amounts of time on like an Instagram post. Like you don't need to do that. Pay someone or do, because you doing that is basically saying your time is worth like $9-10 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, really your time should be worth hundreds of dollars an hour, because you should be spending it going on appointments and closing deals and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So why are you spending your time doing those $9 an hour activities when you can pay someone to do that and free up more time to go get more business?
Yeah.
So a lot of the excuse from my agents is, oh yeah, I was going to do that, but then I got caught up doing this. And I'm like, okay, how much money did that make you? Well, none. It's like, well, why are you prioritizing that over this? And really kind of changing that mindset, because I feel like it's easy for your mind to say, oh, this is important, I'll just work on this. So you feel like you were busy that day.
Yeah. Yep.
When at the end of the day, you didn't make any money.
Yeah.
So
first off, proud of you, Devin. Like you've come so far, man. Like
this would have been a totally different conversation 3 years ago.
And it's crazy. And that's what I want people to realize. Like that's the change that I've seen in you over the last 2-3 years is crazy. And that's 2-3 years. That's so short.
Yeah.
But somebody can totally change their life in 2 to 3 years if you're willing to just buckle down and put in the work and learn. You gotta be willing to. You gotta seek knowledge, because none of this would be possible if you weren't wanting to learn more and increase your knowledge base. But it's so true. It's like everything you said is spot on. I love that you kind of referenced you're saying that your time is now worth X amount to do a Facebook post. The way I look at it too is like, you're a licensed real estate agent. Why did you get your license? You don't need your license to design a postcard. You don't need your license to write a Facebook post. You don't need your license to do a lot of things that agents do on a daily basis, but you do need your license to go out and have conversations. So like utilize why you got your license and go out and have conversations, meet with people, contact people, do your follow-up, go to listing appointments, go do open houses, because you need a real estate license for all those activities. And that's what's going to lead to business, not the stuff that you don't need a real estate license for.
Exactly.
And so, but I think so many agents get caught up in those C activities. And that's why I wanted you to kind of mention some of the C activities to give them examples, because I'm sure there's agents out there that are listening that are going to be like, oh yeah, I spent like all last week designing my postcard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed with your coach and all that stuff, but
yeah,
it's basically one of those things where when they're asking you about your week and stuff like that, so they can kind of go into what they're going to go over.
Yeah.
They don't ask you how many Facebook posts you made. They don't ask you like how many they don't ask that stuff. They ask you, how many listing appointments did you have? How many, buyer's reps did you get signed? Yeah. How many did you get under contract? What's your pending volume? That kind of stuff, because that's what matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like people find these other activities because they're comfortable.
Yeah.
But you're in an industry where you are going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if you're uncomfortable, that's good. That means you're doing things that other people aren't doing, and you're making things happen.
Yeah.
Real estate is, and I feel like people are scared of having conversations because of rejection, because of the awkwardness, whatever. But you have to realize real estate is a no business.
Yeah.
You are going to get more no's than you're going to get yeses. And it comes down to mentality. You can either take them personally, get offended, or you can get excited every no you get, because it's one more no closer to getting you a yes. Yeah. And you just have to be okay with it. Yeah. It's a no business. You're going to get more no's than you get yeses. And it doesn't matter. You can be in real estate for 20 years. You're still going to get more no's than you get yeses. Yeah. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Because you're looking for problems. And I think that's what a lot of people forget in real estate is typically like people are going to transact when they have problems. So you're out here looking for problems and how you can provide solutions to people. In the bigger problems you solve, the more money you will make.
And that's not even just real estate.
No, that's anything.
That's anything.
It's anything in life.
You have a problem, you have a service or a product that's going to solve that problem.
Yep.
And you truly believe that you can help this person.
Yeah.
You're not just in it for the money. You're not just in it for this, that you truly believe you can help this person with your product or your service. You're going to be very successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It goes back to any business. Any successful business is solving a problem for society. And so, but so many agents lose that thought in real estate. It's like, they get upset when there's a problem. Like, why? Like, if you're solving a problem, you just got to solve it, and you're going to get paid. Like, this is great. You have a problem. Now you can actually work.
Your job as an agent is literally a problem solver. Yeah. Your job is to make this transaction as seamless and flawless for the client as possible, because they don't know what they're doing. You're guiding them through.
Yep.
And part of that is solving problems. So that's your job.
Yeah. if they knew how to do it and there wasn't any problems, then you wouldn't have a job. So like if you want that, then you might as well just get out of real estate because nobody will have a job at that point if that's how you want it. But no, I mean, it's so important to think if you're getting into any business to remember that the reason why you're getting into that business and that whether you're offering a product or a service, it's to solve somebody's problem or make life easier for somebody. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay you if you weren't.
Exactly.
So
if it was easy, anybody would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you've gotten into real estate, what's kind of like your long-term goal? What's your vision?
Yeah, long-term goal. We want to grow the team, obviously. And then we have kind of a schedule of how many investment properties we'd like to get.
Okay.
Kind of have a number in mind as far as what cash flow number I'd need to kind of retire, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so,
what's your property number?
Well, that's the thing is I don't necessarily have a property number because each property is going to be different. You know, fourplex might cash flow a little bit better than single family, that kind of stuff. But
what's your cash flow
our
number?
goal is to get to passively 30,000 a month.
Cool.
So,
okay. And
that would be stepping away from this business. So we'd have 30,000 from rental properties and then also still some stuff from this business. But a lot of ideas, you know, stuff we've talked about, possibly opening an office in Arizona, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's kind of set in stone is that number as far as the rental properties.
Which is cool because a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about, how'd you come up with 30,000?
Honestly, we kind of broke down a budget and said, okay, this is what our monthly spending is with the business and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, once we get to that point, we're hoping we're not spending that much on the business. But that number kind of had a little effect on it. And then, you know, how much we wanted to travel and that kind of stuff, and just did a yearly budget and figured out, okay, if we did that, you know, we would need about 20,000. Let's go 10,000 above it just in case. Like, we don't know how life changes, you know. Inflation. So, so 30,000 a month is kind of just the number we set on.
That's cool. A lot of, because it's important, like I'm a part of this Be Wealthy Mastermind, and they talk a lot about building your wealth plan and what is your cash flow number that you want to retire in. Because it's really easy for people to say, just like generic, like when you're thinking really big, it's like a lot of people go like, I want like 50 or 100,000. It's like, okay, do you really need 50 or 100,000? Or is that just something that you're kind of just spitting out because it's a big number and it sounds cool? Like actually think about what you need or what you'd feel comfortable with to retire on. Like for some people, that number might be 10, 15,000.
Right.
It depends on the life that you want to live with those funds. But it's cool that you guys have kind of put a little bit more thought into that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what anything with business or life, you want to reverse engineer it.
Yep.
So, you know, if you want to make $200,000 this year, then you need to break it down to, okay, I know that if I make X amount of calls, I'll get a yes. So I need this many yeses to hit, you know, my listing number. X amount of listings are actually going to sell.
Yep.
Then it gets me to this number.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I got to make 75 phone calls a day and I will hit my number. It's easy when you do it that way.
Yeah.
But when you just look at, oh, I want to make that amount of money, and then you sit there and kind of twiddle your thumbs. I don't know how to get there, whatever. It seems daunting. Well, same thing with like the retirement plan. If you look and you say, okay, you know, this is our lifestyle. This is what we want. Make a budget of like your dream retirement lifestyle. What is that yearly number? Okay. What does that equate to monthly? Okay. How many rental properties would I need? What cash flow would I need to get to that number monthly?
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, I want to get to that point in 20 years. I need to buy 2 investment properties a year for the next 20 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Like if you reverse engineer it like that, then it doesn't seem so daunting.
Yeah.
But
and you let it in when you start buying properties, the biggest thing is like things will compound. So that property that you buy year one might only cash flow a couple $100. And so like you keep pushing and you're buying more properties, but like 10 years down the road, that property might be cash flowing substantially more. It will be cash flowing substantially more because rents always are going up. The cost of living is not going down. And you're paying down your mortgage, and you know, maybe rates come down and you refinance. So it's like typically that property is going to do better off. But the thing is, like, so many people just get this thought of, I'm going to have to buy so many properties and it's going to take me so long. But it's like, start doing it and let that compound.
But it's like, you think about it, right? If you compound like that, say I want 30,000 a month.
Yeah.
That literally equates to me buying 2 properties a year.
Yeah.
Does that seem possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get creative in the beginning with down payments, stuff like that. But yeah, it's possible.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like people hear that 30,000 a month, they're like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. It's like, yeah, it is, but it's not that hard to do it if you have a plan.
Yeah.
So
the key word is a plan.
Yeah, a plan.
Most people have a plan for anything.
You can't just wing it. You've got to plan it. But
there's the coach in that mastermind group, he said, there's more people that plan their weekend majority of people put more planning into their weekend vacation than they do on their whole wealth building, like their lifelong wealth building. And when he first said that and it hit me, I'm like, man, it's so true. People spend more time planning like this trip to Vegas than they have ever done planning their future. It's like, what?
I think a lot of people have the mentality of we'll just deal with it when we get there.
Yeah. Or it's daunting. And so they don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
So like, if I don't look at it, then
it's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me, it's there.
It's there, I promise.
Whether you think about it or not.
Well, it's actually not there. You won't have anything
Exactly.
there when you need it.
You'll have nothing. You'll have a bunch of problems is what you'll have.
Yeah. So that's cool. I think that's super awesome. And I think the younger generation, because how old are you, Devin?
I'm 30.
30. Oof.
I know, dude.
The 3 O's now.
You made me say it. It's depressing.
But like the younger generation, it's cool to see. I think there's a lot more younger people that are starting to plan out their future and have these goals set nowadays, which I think is super cool. Because beforehand, it used to be, people in their 40s, 50s plus, or they're the ones having these kind of conversations. But I want to start I want young people to come to me with these conversations. Yep. I've met with high schoolers. Edgar introduced me to some high schooler that was getting into door-to-door sales, and he was curious about buying his first property, and he wants to buy rentals, and he hadn't even graduated yet. He was like 17, and he was planning to go out this next summer, but he was already wanting to ask questions about how much should I try to make? What do I need to save for a down payment on a house? I love that. I love those conversations.
That's what I really like about Chandler and Garrett. Those guys, because I did summer sales. Right?
Yeah.
And I did not have a Chandler or Garrett. So you go out and the whole thing is, you can buy this cool car and whatever. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Because Garrett and Chandler do that.
Yeah.
But they teach you how to do it right.
Yeah.
And nobody did that with me when I was there. It's like you make this money, more money than you've ever made in your life, and you don't know how to handle it. Whereas these guys take you under their wing. They have you do the summer sales, but then when you make money, they teach you how you can basically create a legacy with that money.
Yeah. You buy a property first and then buy your car.
Exactly. Like we talked about before, buy the asset, have the asset pay for the car.
Yeah. There's I think Garrett helped one of their sales guys who was like 19 buy his first duplex this last summer. And I was like, man, it's cool to watch. So I admire those guys.
It's cool to help too, because they find these deals and stuff, right? And they can easily buy them themselves.
Oh yeah.
But they give the opportunity to some of these younger guys to let them get started, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's cool. It sucks that they're in our market and competing with us. I think it comes up.
It's okay. No, plenty of business to go around.
There is. It's so fun. So it's cool to watch. But wrapping things up, is there anything like biggest takeaway I think that you could share with the audience, people that are looking to get into business, entrepreneurship, looking to build their own wealth? What's like your one or two biggest pieces of advice?
I think probably one or two pieces of advice. I think the biggest thing is if you've been thinking about taking the leap, just do it. Don't get stuck in this analysis paralysis. Don't try to like have the answer for everything before you make the change. Like just do it. You'll figure it out on the way.
Yeah. And
then what's working right now is working. Work hard. If you work hard, you'll see success.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that are all about that quick money or easy money or things like that. So they get into things and they quit. Don't be that person. Like push through and you'll be successful.
Yeah. There's no magic pill.
No magic pill, no magic sauce. Just work hard.
I love that. What's working right now is working. Yep. Just gotta work. That's it. That's it. There's no secret sauce. Well, Devin, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, follow him. Instagram, Homer Real Estate, Devin Homer. Thank you guys for tuning in. Till next time. We'll see you later.
Let me put you on game.
Thanks, bud.
Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger and start taking some of the blame. Let me put you on game. Control your emotions, most of the time it's really not worth it. Don't be ashamed and beat yourself up for not being perfect.